Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, Just Simply Sports here with me. I am Kaja, and if you're new here, I ask you to please like and subscribe. If you're not new, you've been here, I appreciate your continued support. I just first want to start out by saying, can we all just get along? Can we all just get along? There's enough turmoil and craziness already going on in the world. Can we just find some sort of peace when it comes to entertainment like sports? Now, I don't know where you guys have been, but if you haven't, you see that there has been a back and forth today between Aaron Rodgers and RC Ryan Clark. But I see a lot of you in the comments saying that Ryan Clark kind of came for Aaron Rodgers first. That to me is not how it went. It started with the comments that Aaron Rodgers made last week. I think you guys have seen the comments that RC did on First Take responding to this video. But this is the video that started everything off. So I'm going to play some of this and then we'll talk about it because you guys are kind of missing things in between. And I think if you're really listening to what everything that's being said, you may understand. You may not like it, but you may have a different perspective or a better understanding of why RC, felt some kind of way.
Well, talking about the game now, both non-former players, and former players who, are trying to stay relevant, fame-wise. So the takes and the criticism, I think, are a lot different than they were maybe in the mid-2000s. These experts on TV who nobody remembers what they did in their career. So in order for them to stay relevant, they have to make comments that keep them in the conversation. That wasn't going on in 2008, 2009. That was non-existent. The Sports Center of my youth, those guys made the highlights so much fun, and that's what they showed on Sports Center. Now it's all talk shows and people whose opinions are so important now, and they believe they're the celebrities now. They're the stars for just being able to talk about sports or give a take about sports, many of which are unfounded or asinine, as we all know. But that's that's the environment that we're in now.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it right there. So Aaron Rodgers did something that to me I find really, really irritating. If you are going to call someone out and you're going to say things like that and you're generalizing it, for me, I need you to put a name on it. If it's not directed, it's not respected. That's how I personally feel. Now, what Aaron Rodgers did was you generalized it and you said the media. So, who exactly are you talking about? Because when you say there are a lot of people who are trying to stay relevant, you kind of implied that their careers were not as successful as yours. So when you think about it, there are a lot of NFL players that are now analysts. This is what they get paid for. So when you speak about that, you're talking about an RC. You're talking about a Cam Newton. You're talking about a Stephen A. Smith. People giving their opinions. Trying to stay relevant and things of that nature. That was a personal attack. And if you go back to 2008, 2009, perhaps you were playing better than how you're playing now in 2024. To me, one thing that irritates me when it comes to Aaron Rodgers is I feel like he's always trying to deflect off the fact that he's not what he once was. I feel like he takes no accountability for what comes out of his mouth, the lack of leadership in the locker room, people getting fired, people moving mountains to bring him into the organization only for it to fail. You were in Egypt, right? Beginning of the season, in preseason, the team was trying to get acclimated together, play together. You weren't there. You didn't see any reason to participate in the preseason. Fast forward, look at the foolishness that took place. Look what happened. It's not good. His last season in Green Bay, I remember him saying, again, he didn't want to participate in the preseason. He didn't see the point in it. And then when the season started and the receivers and him didn't have the chemistry, the connection that I guess he was accustomed to having, they were dropping the passes and things like that, he was upset. He called the receivers out because they were too young and so on and so forth. You knew that. It's not always about you. He comes across as a bit selfish. It's not preseason. I know that you're Aaron Rodgers, so you may not need for the practice to practice. However, those young men who are rookies, who are not used to playing with you, you're coming to a new organization like the Jets, they don't have any, they're not Devontae Adams, they don't have that relationship with you. They need to be able to play with you in a a game setting, not just a practice setting, an actual game setting, game speed to get acclimated. And when those things didn't go right, you were unhappy pointing the finger. You were in the cave. All these different things are so distracting to me. And for you to sit there on a show with people who are analyzing the game, who are not necessarily professional NFL players, who don't have a successful career, who, RC has a Super Bowl ring, like he's not some Joe Schmo that was like, at the end of the bench, he did play, so when you sit on a show with people who are the very, very thing that you say you don't like, it doesn't make sense to me.
I find it extremely funny that he's saying this on a show with a man who, as great as he was as a punter, is far more famous as a pundit.
That's a fact.
And Pat McAfee. AJ Hawk, who I felt like was a good player, right, is now on TV and he gets to give his thoughts as well. Actually, Aaron Rodgers, you're being paid to be on that show to give your thoughts and opinions as a personality.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. He is not to me a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is one of the best and most talented quarterbacks to ever play this game. And he ain't no more. And his problem is that people are willing to say it. Are people not supposed to be able to do their jobs in an unbiased way and be honest about who you are as a player because you feel like you had a better career than them?
Yeah.
I don't agree to that. And for you to sit up there and say that there are these people who feel like,
I gotta stop it right there because I am Team RC when it comes to that. It's what it feels like. It all boils down to you don't want anyone giving an opinion that's not in favor of you and how you look as of lately, as opposed to just taking accountability because you don't look the same. You know how you were in your prime versus how you're playing now, being your age, coming off an Achilles injury. It does not look the same. You're not playing the same. The record is 4-10. It speaks for itself. They did better with Zach Wilson there than they have with you. These are facts. So when people are talking about the sport and they're talking about how you look, as long as it's not in a negative way, like, well, Aaron Rodgers is trash, he sucks, he's this, he's that, that's one thing. They're talking about your stats and what kind of quarterback you were prior to what you are now. That's fair game, as long as it doesn't come across, as long as it takes an or not personal. To me, I don't see what the problem is. Again, they get paid to do these things. You now have, when you talk about what happened in 2008, this is a whole new realm that we live in now. A lot of people, like myself, have podcasts. People who are fans, they talk about the game. They break it down and analyze it. However, most people are not paid, right? Cam, these are both former NFL players. So who better to have analyze nowadays than former players themselves because they've been in your exact same shoes. They've been in the locker rooms. They know what it's like to win. They know what it's like to compete the highest of levels. So as opposed to having someone like Stephen A talk about it, who can only talk about it from an outside perspective, he's never going to have the same level of intellect and knowledge as someone who actually played the sport. So now media is being overtaken by foreign players, current players, aspiring players, and it's a different realm we live in. We are not in 2008 anymore, Aaron. It's time to move past that. But just because someone doesn't agree with how you feel they should be speaking about you and your career, that doesn't mean that you get to talk down because you're a Hall of Famer, you're first ballot Hall of Famer, you're a league MVP. So that means if you weren't MVP, that means your opinion is meaningless, so to speak. I don't agree with that. If you all made it to the NFL, there's obviously levels to it, but I made it here just like you did. So I too also have talent. I'm not some Joe Schmo who's in my local park throwing a ball around with my homies.
They have now become the celebrity, or they have now become the superstar of the sports center of old is gone. Yeah, bro, because times change. Oh. The reason that they're paying you $1 million or whatever it is to be on Pat McAfee is because you had a great career and people are going to listen to your opinions, which people listen to my opinion. People listen to Cam Newton's opinion. People listen to Stephen A's opinion because those opinions are informed. And so my biggest problem with Aaron Rodgers, because to me, I'm actually not upset about what he's saying because I ain't no hit dog. And a hit dog a holler. Mm-hmm. My issue with him is you're doing the exact same thing.
You're doing it too.
And the reason that you're getting this opportunity to say these asinine things is because someone is paying you who is exactly the same thing that you are now speaking out against. This dude is once again tone deaf. This dude is once again unaware. This dude is once again arrogant to a point that's almost sickening because he says these things and he talks tough and he behaves in this way, but he ain't. Right? He has all of this cachet because he's a good player. But they ain't people around here that come around and talk about what type of leader you are. They ain't people that come around here and talk about wanting to follow you because of the type of man you have been. This dude is a fraud, right? He's been a fraud. And he could.
All right. You see Cam's face? Cam was like, oh man, I'm just gonna turn my head. Like I agree with you a little bit, RC, but I don't want no trouble with AR, so I'm just gonna, kind of grin and turn my head. Although it looks like Cam did agree with what, so at least some of what RC was saying. So that's what Ryan Clark said in response to what Aaron said last week. This conversation also was last week. A few days later, he followed up. So these conversations and these takes took place last week. Aaron Rodgers comes on Pat McAfee every Wednesday. He was there today, and this is what he had to say. So it's like a back and forth, ping pong, tennis match.
I know I got to say this multiple times for people because they don't listen, but say whatever the fuck you want about me. I don't care. But just before you do it, whether you state your name, your accolades, pronouns, whatever it is, just state your vax status so that anything you say afterwards gets put in the right light. Just get it out there. Because then when you say things about me, people can at least be like, oh, you are captured by the multi-billion-dollar propaganda psyop, and you're still upset about it.
Okay.
This will help things.
Yeah, this is good. This will settle it all down. I appreciate that. And
hey, you know what I mean? Just put that in just so everybody knows where you're coming from. Everybody knows, okay, cool. You're twice vaxxed Moderna with 3 booster shots. And then boom, boom, boom. Say what you want to say. Whatever. I don't care. I'm just saying a PSA. Just please help everybody out who's wondering where is this coming from, including myself. What the fuck is this coming from?
Okay, so what do you mean? Where is it coming from? So this is why I say I agree with RC. You're saying that this is why he said he was tone deaf. You don't know what you said like last week. You don't know what you said on Pat McAfee's show. Like you make it seem like you said nothing at all, and he just like came out his face and just started addressing you on his show, like being a hypocrite. Like he just rolled out of bed and just started doing that. Come on, Aaron. You know what you said. Stop acting like you have no freaking clue, like you're innocent completely. No, he didn't have to call you a fraud, but you're not innocent. And what does him being vexed to do with him covering how you are playing this season as a New York Jet? I'm confused. So if he's vaxxed, that means that his paid opinion isn't valid. And if he's not vaxxed, then somehow it is. Like, either way, you're playing bad. He gets paid to cover NFL, and they cover everyone. They talk about Lamar when he does bad. They talk about Josh and turnovers. They talk about every single person in the NFL. It is not just you. I don't understand why you were on this show complaining about it. This is how media works. Whenever you play bad, you're scrutinized. It doesn't matter what sport. This is what comes with it. You're in the New York market. I live in New York. This is a big market. They talk about you here. It's not for the faint of heart.
Give it a little PSA. You do a little bit of digging, then you know where it's all coming from, right? You're captured, you're highly vaccinated, and then say whatever the hell you want to say about me, because I couldn't give 2 shits about it. All I care about is that you put that little disclaimer out there, just like it's in the bottom for me, that I'm a champ, MVP, and I am enthusiastic about ayahuasca. Just put, instead of your accolades that you need to have out there, so desperately, just put your vax status as well, because you cared so much about it, during the COVID years.
all right.
So just put it out there on your bio when you're about on your shows or whatever. You don't just need a brooch with your initials.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Put your vax status on there.
Okay, so what I respect about what RC did is that he came straight to Aaron Rodgers. He didn't beat around the bush. He didn't, speak from a general standpoint. He was like, look, Aaron Rodgers said this. This is my response. And he directed it straight towards him. Now, we know RC likes to wear his brooch and stuff with his initials on it. Just say who you're talking about, man. Stop. I hate when people throw the rock and then they hide it. Like, you were talking about the media. You know you were talking about foreign players. You may have been talking about RC specifically, but this is what happens if you're not being direct. If you're not going to be direct to me, then why even bring it up? Why even stir up controversy? Because that's what I'm talking about. To me, it seems like Aaron Rodgers thrives off of being in the media and not necessarily in a good way. You go on TV, you say these things, and people are always constantly talking about it and talking about you. You give the media things to talk about that are not positive. And then when they speak about it, you're bothered that they're talking about it. There wouldn't be a topic of conversation if you didn't decide to go to Egypt during OTAs. It wouldn't be a topic of conversation if you just made your decision, or if you needed more time, just quietly stayed away to people saying, I'm going to the cave, and so on and so forth. You're bringing all this unwarranted attention and you're not winning. So it's distracting and it's annoying as a fan of the game personally. Play or step aside and just be quiet. But all this extra stuff is just so annoying. So I guess RC got wind of that. He was on X, formerly Twitter, tweeting earlier, and then he posted a video again directly to Aaron Rodgers.
Show. Wanted to make sure all your people knew it was me. Here is why I called Aaron Rodgers, or why I called you a hypocrite. Because you're actually on ESPN talking about my fellow colleagues and the people I work with, saying that now, because they are former players and weren't as great as players of you as you were, you feel like, or they feel like they're the stars. And that's not it. TV has changed. It's more about opinion and the informed opinion of people who have played the game. What's hypocritical about what you said is you said it while on TV with Pat McAfee, who has done an amazing job with this platform. And even though he was an all-pro punter, he's now extremely famous and more well-known for what he does in his post-career. Even more hypocritical of you is that you're sitting across from three people who have never played the game. And they are also entitled to talk about football in a very informed way, because if we've learned anything from Mina Kimes, you don't actually have to step on the field to be excellent at the job of analyzing football. And I spoke to that hypocrisy because you were getting paid to do that, which Pat said you deserve to. And that is why you received the money that you did, at least initially, because of what you brought to his platform. Now, let me be clear, because I know you want us to list these things. My name is Ryan Clark. Played 13 years in the NFL, been to 2 Super Bowls. I have as many rings as you do. I was the captain of 2 separate football teams. I'm also an Emmy winner. I'm also the co-host, owner, and partner of an Emmy-nominated podcast called The Pivot. Now, I know something else you were very interested in was my vaccination status. And yes, I'm vaxxed because I have no spleen, I have no gallbladder, because of playing in Denver and being willing to go back, honestly, and play again. Because I've been in those locker rooms. And I've talked to people that have been in the locker rooms with you. I have the stories. I have all the things that they said that informed my opinion of who you are. And as far as your vaccination status, so you can stop trying to trick people into thinking that we want to talk about that above the stink of your film, I've never heard it one more time after your incident. And the only reason we spoke about it then was because based on your vaccination status, it was going to determine how long you were out. And also, people didn't care that you weren't vaccinated. They cared that you were slimy about it. They cared that you were deceitful about it. And they cared that you had this air of arrogance when answering the questions about it. And you've kind of only been the only person that's talked about it since. But let me be very, very clear. My job is to analyze you. You've decided to analyze me. And in analyzing you, what I know is your QBR is 21st. I also know that you're the quarterback of a 4-10 team who has to win the last 3 games of the season to even be equal to what last year's team was without you. Now, I get it. You get on the show and you talk about my brooch and you curse and all this tough talk. I just need you to know Don't none of that scare me. I'm going to do my job the way I'm supposed to do it. I feel no way about not being able to talk about what the film says because of what my career was. And if you continue to be arrogant or smug or hypocritical, and it pertains to my job, I'm going to do it. And I want to remind you again, I'm Ryan Clark, 13 years, Emmy winner, host of an Emmy-nominated podcast. And speaking of that jealousy and guest stuff, The Rock, Kevin Hart, Mike Tomlin, Devontae Adams, Joe Burrow, Shaq, just to name a few. No money, just relationships, conversations, and respect.
You know, I thought he was going to say, and once again, I'm Ryan Clark, and I approve this message. I really felt like that's what he was going to say when he repeated his name again. But who are you guys? This has been a lot. It's been a lot. A lot of back and forth. A lot of back and forth. You know, but personally, I don't mind it. Like I said earlier, when people feel some kind of way, direct it. Direct it. There are a lot of former athletes, some who have been backups. You watch the facility, you have Emmanuel Acho, Chase Daniel, who was a backup QB. He wasn't, he's at the Patrick Mahomes of the team, but, he was in the NFL, I think, 13, 14 years. So he knows a thing or two about quarterbacks, although he's not Aaron Rodgers level. But when you make it seem like, okay, well, you play backup or, you play 5 years as opposed to my 15, 16 years. And I have one Super Bowl ring and you don't have any, you don't have Super Bowl appearance. It's like you're kind of invalidating people and their knowledge of the sport. I can still be knowledgeable about something just because I don't have the accolades that you have as far as MVP or quarterback. So it's going to be different. MVP is a quarterback award. We know how that goes. It's going to be different. You have a different set of eyes on you than other players on your roster, and obviously your generational talent, no one's knocking that, but it hasn't looked the same. There's been some slippage. And I just feel like with all this conversation, it drives me crazy that if he would just take some of this and stop worrying about people saying about him, be it good or bad, maybe we win more games. Like, your team is not winning games. Like, you left Green Bay to go to the Jets. You got hurt first 4 snaps last season, come back, and they look even worse than they did with Zach Wilson. These things are facts. So forget what everybody else is saying. Focus on winning some games and getting a job for next season. Because honestly speaking, I'm not sure which locker room is going to want him in it looking like this. It feels like almost when he comes, he's going to come with this list of demands like a diva. That's the kind of vibe that he gives off. I don't know him, but it gives off diva vibes. It gives off list of demands. I need this. I want this coach. I need this person to be there, and so on and so forth. And then you're not producing. I think we need to find out why there's been some slippage. If you're fully healed, or I don't know, find a way to get acclimated to the way today's quarterbacks are playing so you can keep up. But to me, going back and forth with RC, who you say is trying to be the star, whatever have you, why? Why? If you're a star, this should be a small thing to a giant. Be Aaron Rodgers. Be the MVP Super Bowl champ that you are. Future first ballot Hall of Famer. Be that and focus on yourself. Who cares? But when you open the Pandora's box and you're going to put things out there, then people have right to respond. It is what it is. I just don't respect the fact that you didn't direct who you were speaking to. That's what I don't like. And it is hypocritical for you to be talking about people in the media, trying to stay relevant and so on and so forth, whose careers weren't as good as you, when you're sitting there with people who didn't even play. You know what I mean? A punter, no disrespect, you know what I mean? But that's not a very, he wasn't MVP caliber kind of player, Pat McAfee. Obviously quite popular doing this, but he's taken his knowledge of the game and turned it into a multi-million-dollar production company, and it works, right? So if you feel this way about the media, then to RC's point, why are you on this platform? I don't know. It is hypocritical to me. I wouldn't have called him a fraud or whatever have you, because that is direct and that's personal. However, I can see why he said it. I can see it. You know what I mean? we'll see how these last 3 games go and what happens if Aaron Rodgers responds back to RC again. Hopefully, this will be it, and they'll both just let it die down, let it air out, let it move on, and focus on another day. What do you guys think about this whole situation? Are you team Ryan Clark? Are you team Aaron Rodgers? Let me know in those comments. I'll see you in the next video.